What up, Pittsburgh Steel fans? Matty P here with another episode of Steelers Touchdown Under, looking at the Steelers rookies and the Jags rookies as they look to play their Week 8 matchup with the Steelers back at home at Acrisure Stadium after the win against the Rams 24-17. Steelers now 4-2 on the season, having had their bye, 2-0 in the division. Good chance to go up to one of the better teams against the better teams in the AFC, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars with a 5-2 record. I think they've won now 4 on the trot, so they're definitely looking pretty good. But let's crack straight into it. So Steelers rookies, Darius Rush, Spencer Anderson. We can't really talk too much about them this week. Obviously, Darius Rush has just come into the Steelers team, as we've also seen a guy like Oshesky leave. You also saw Desmond King's on the radar to be moved as well before the trade deadline, whether that's traded or released. But Darius Rush didn't do anything in this game. That's to be expected. I think it'll only be a couple of games. My good friend Shannon White said on Steel Curtain Network that he felt the press coverage is one of the easier positions, press coverage corner. And so you might see Darius Rush sooner than what you think. Maybe not this week, but maybe the week after, maybe the week after that. Spencer Anderson, again, you didn't really see much of him. That's to be expected, particularly when Dan Moore took the spot of Broderick Jones. You saw James Daniels back. Again, not a real surprise with that being the case from Spencer Anderson. And it's probably like a little bit early in the season to be seeing too much of him anyway. But I hope down the stretch he can get some snaps for the right reasons, that he's earning that spot, that the Steelers are ahead in games. They're able to get a bit of, give guys a bit of game time there. So that sort of covers those two rookies off. Now we look at Calvin Austin as well. And Calvin Austin basically didn't see too much of him against the Rams. He had one rush attempt for 1 yard, no receiving sort of plays there. So obviously with Deontay coming back, you had Allen Robinson in the mix, and Pickens had a big game. So, and Connor Hayward had some receptions as well. Najee Harris had some, so did Jalen Warren. Not a real surprise to see not much out of Calvin Austin, but I thought he'd get at least a couple of targets. So he only had one against Baltimore, though. So, maybe it's teams are scheming for him, preparing for him, but he looks to be definitely quite a part of the offense with DJ in the mix. Not the worst case, but I'd love to see Canada try and be creative and work him in. Another guy that we didn't really see that much out of this week was, apart from blocking, was Darnell Washington. You would have thought with Pat Freiermuth out that Darnell would have been used a lot more. No targets his way, no receptions, no rush yards, nothing. Canada offense, I don't want to labor that point. The Canada offense was better this week, but, going into the Jags, if Pat Freiermuth's not there, you were going to have to use a guy like Darnell. He'll be really important against their defense. So while we don't have anything really to show about him this week, hopefully when I'm doing this show next week, as we do the weekly rookie reports, there's something to say about Darnell Washington. So we got to park it up there. Interestingly enough, we also saw Rodney Williams take the field in this game, and Rodney Williams was definitely contributing on special teams. He's now played 37% of the special team snaps on the season. He's played 12% of all offensive team snaps, but actually when you look at that and in terms of games that he's been active for, he is someone that is a wide receiver convert to the tight end position, very athletic. We saw him almost with the save for the punt block to help a touchdown against Baltimore before the bye. Again, you saw some athleticism from him in this game. I think he had a couple of tackles on special teams as well. But yeah, not that or contributed to those. The stats haven't pulled that up. But look, Rodney Williams we're seeing more of. It's interesting you see him more in the mix than you do. His blocking was better as well than you do Darnell. So again, the Steelers, it's just how they're going to use those tight ends. And I think it's no surprise that you're not seeing Rodney Williams or Darnell Washington doing particularly that great, because the Steelers have struggled with tight ends for a very long time, but particularly under the Canada offense, I think tight ends have been way underutilized. It's different though. You may say Connor Hayward had a decent game this past week against the Rams, but I see more of him as that fullback, the hybrid fullback tight end. And so you kind of expect that with his height, what he does, what he can contribute with his ball skills. I know he's an H-back. I know he's a modern small tight end, but I kind of see that a little bit different to a Darnell, Rodney Williams, and a Pat Freiermuth from my perspective. Disappointing in some ways to see Keanu Benton relegated behind Adams. Adams played well, but Keanu Benton is a lot more of, and Shannon White, I got to take this and give credit to him here. He said it best on Steel Curtain Network this week. Ultimately, Benton offers more potential. Benton is a better nose tackle. That's something Montreal Adams is not. And yet we didn't see many snaps from him this week. I heard commentators mention him. I saw him on the field a couple of times where he contributed and helped stuff some runs because of his presence. But he wasn't really given a chance to really, go out there and do that much. In fact, according to Pro Football Reference, he did have his 2 quarterback hits, but that was about it. There was no other sort of stats there. I want to see more out of Keanu Benton. Maybe they give him a rest as they go down the stretch. Maybe, he'd come out of the bye, not so necessarily so fresh. But I just want to see more of Benton. Work him in. I want to be talking about tackles for a loss next week. But 2 quarterback hits is good for him. That brings him now on the season to 4 quarterback hits, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 sack, in terms of, and 1 forced fumble in terms of the big headline stats for Keanu Benton, I should say. Broderick Jones. So Broderick didn't get the start over Dan Moore. Didn't really get to see him play. Continued to do a little bit on special teams. The Steelers, I don't remember necessarily seeing him on the field very early my time, the first quarter though, out here in Australia. But yeah, I think he should be the starting left tackle, and they should figure it out between Okorafor and Dan Moore. But I actually think it's Okorafor that should be traded, despite what some Steelers media is saying. And you can check that out in a video that we did last week about Steelers O-line and trades that can happen there. But yeah, Broderick Jones, I just want to see him take the field. I really want to do that. And hopefully the Steelers can they can recognize that he deserves his spot. Then we had Joe Porter, who again had a good game. He did pretty well against Puka Nacua, who had been lighting the league on fire. He had 3 tackles in this game, so the most tackles, which is interesting because he's not their most willing tackler, but he had 2 solo, 1 assisted tackle. So that was pretty cool from him, I thought, in terms of what he was able to do. So I do like what Joe Porter's doing as he works his way into the mix. He had 1 pass defense. He played 78% of the defensive snaps, 19% of the special team snaps. So that's pretty cool from him. Again, he continues to develop on the season so far. He's got 3 pass defenses, the 1 interception, as we know, 9 tackles. Not too bad. Barely seen any game time. That's a bit unfair, but he's only really started to see that in the last couple of weeks worth of games. And so the final rookie that we will talk about on today's show from the Steelers perspective, but don't worry, we've got all the Jags guys coming up for you next because they're the guys we're going up against this week, is Nick Herbig. Congratulations to Nick Herbig. Got the sack. He made my 7 takeaways and reactions to the Rams game. Nick Herbig with his first sack, really important with TJ struggling with either a finger or a heel, whatever's going to ail him. Really exciting to see Nick Herbig get his first sack. He looked great out there. He looked fast. He looked acclimated to the NFL. That's a really good thing. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he's bringing to this team. And he had a quarterback hit as well, besides a tackle for a loss. Huge game for him off the bench. Really love it, particularly from a player that has only played 15% of all the defensive snaps so far this year. If he can finish with 3 tackles, 3 or 4 tackles for a loss, 5 to 10 quarterback hits, he will have had a terrific season in my book for a 4th round outside to / inside linebacker. They're only really playing mid outside this year. But yeah, the ability to spell and rest TJ in the middle of the season, the ability to even allow Highsmith to have managed snaps, particularly when there's Golden sitting there as well. I love what they're doing with the outside linebacker position room this season. And Nick Herbig is going to be tremendous value for this Steelers team over the course of his rookie deal. All right, so let's move on to the Jags. So they had quite a big draft class, but they've got one of the good big names there that a lot of Steel fans might be familiar with because of Penn State is Parker Washington. They've got 4 or 5 of their rookies actually on IR at the moment, so we won't go into them. The first guy we're going to talk about, though, is Tyler Lacey, the defensive end or defensive tackle taken by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 4th round. He's 6'4", 285 pounds. He wears jersey number 93. He's got 3 tackles on the season so far. He has predominantly played on defense. Well, yeah, he's only had defensive snaps, but he's only played 55 defensive snaps through 7 games. So nothing really to write home about for him, but you'll probably see him as a depth rotational piece for the Jags this upcoming week. Then we have Yasir Abdullah, the 6'1", 234 linebacker, out taken in the 5th round, pick 136 overall, taken out of Louisville. So he has played throughout the season, played a limited number of snaps, really and truly, with 14% of the defensive snaps, 45 defensive snaps, no special teams. He's kind of got like one tackle and one quarterback hit on the season. Again, you might see him depth piece, you might see him in certain packages, certain run defense schemes. But yeah, you can look out for Yasir Abdullah, number 56 on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then we have Tank Bigsby, who is their running back that they took in the, I think I'm going to say third round, 88th overall. He's got 6 first downs on the season, 2 touchdowns, 45 yards off 20 attempts. So he's averaging 2.3. You're seeing him in either garbage minutes or the mix of drives to give guys a spell. He's not had any more than a 9-yard rush, but the Steelers got absolutely gashed against the Rams by Henderson Jr., who came off the couch. So I don't want to rubbish Tank Bigsby. He's also behind Travis Etienne, who's a very good running back. I happen to have him in fantasy. He's killing it for me right now. He's averaging over 22 points in fantasy so far, so huge. At least if the Steelers, I want the Steelers to win. Obviously, as a Steel fan and Steel podcaster, but if the Steelers lose, at least I'm going to get some points this week. I have Christian Kirk and I have Travis Etienne. But Tank Bigsby, moving back to him, as say 2 touchdowns. He's also had a reception of 1 target for the season, so 1 reception of 3 targets for the season, but 1 for 1 against Indy. So really not much to do there, but that's what you're going to see from a second, third string running back, particularly taken this early in the season as well, and taken where he was in the draft behind a top quality when fit running back in this league. We'll then move on to Elijah Cooks, the 6'4", 215-pound wide receiver out of Nevada and San Jose State. He played against Indiana, and he did play last week against the New Orleans Saints, where the Jags won 31-24. He has only played on special teams. I lie. He's played 15 snaps on offense and 4 snaps on special teams. So really not a lot from him, not a lot of production, no real stats logged according to Pro Football Reference. So we will move on from him pretty quickly. Then you've got Antonio Johnson, who is the safety out of Texas A&M. Some Steel fans, I saw some chatter about him in the draft process. He was taken in the 5th round. He's a 6'3", 195-pound safety. He has played in 3 games so far: New Orleans Saints, Indiana Colts game, and the Buffalo Bills game. He has played 12 defensive snaps and 57 special team snaps, which tells you everything you need to know he's contributing on special teams. That's 65% of the special team snaps in games he's been available for. He has had a hamstring issue. He wears jersey number, just pull out 26. So you may see a little bit of him, you may not, but that's Antonio Johnson, their safety, and how he's contributing from the rookie perspective. We then move on to the 2nd round draft pick, who was also taken out of Penn State, Brenton Strange, the 6'3", 247-pound tight end. He has played in 7 games so far on the season for 4 receptions, 34 yards, average yards per reception of 8.5, 1 TD. Again, contributing on special teams as well. I think he's played almost 50% of their special team snaps, with 93 snaps. And so you will see him. He's actually pictured in the photo that we've got on the icon image here, or was the thumbnail image that you clicked on when you entered the video as well. He's contributing, not necessarily getting a heap of targets. His best game was against Indy, where he had 2 receptions for 27 yards off 3 targets and a TD. So that's the majority of what he's done so far on the season. But I could see them looking to really weaponize him this week if he's fit and healthy. And then finally, we get to the Jags' number 1 draft pick first round draft pick in this year's latest draft with Antoine Harrison, where they traded back, but they got him. He's a tackle. He's actually, interestingly, PFF have him graded as the top tackle through the first 4 weeks of the season, ahead of DeJuan Jones, ahead of Paris Johnson Jr., ahead of Darnell Wright, and ahead of Broderick Jones. But that didn't account for Broderick Jones' start against Baltimore. So that's a key thing to note. Jones on this list had the lowest amount of snaps, and he played, it was only 51 snaps on offense at the season at that point in time through week 4. So Broderick Jones was ranked number 5, Antoine Harrison number 1. And then you had Wright, Paris Johnson, DeJuan Jones in between, and Blake Freeland is number 6. To give you an idea, Broderick Jones at the time was a 53, Darnell Wright was a 60, Antoine Harrison was a 70. But he's improved a lot better in terms of the pressures that he's allowing on teams by all accounts. So he's one that the Steelers, like, I'm interested to see how the Steelers pass rush go up against him. He's a rookie, so you'd expect the experienced Steelers pass rush to take advantage of him in this game. He's played 96% of the offensive snaps for the Jags, 17% of the special team snaps. He's played every week of the season. Good pickup by them after they lost Cam Robinson as well. So it makes sense for them to be playing Antoine Harrison. He is only 21 and 265 days. So just after the season, he'll make it to 22. So he's young like Broderick Jones, taken out of Oklahoma. So obviously Oklahoma Sooners. So obviously documented, good pedigree. But yeah, so for the Steelers, I'd love to see Herbie go up against him. Wouldn't it be good if Herbie could get like a second sack or a couple of QB hits and tackles for a loss against Antoine Harrison? But he'll need to be really fired up for this game. But he is 6'5", he is 350 pounds, number 77 for the Jags. So he looks a bit like number 77 for the Steelers. So can't wait to see this matchup between Antoine Harrison and the Steelers defensive line and linebackers, because if they can put pressure on Antoine Harrison, this Jags offense, you've got a chance at helping them stall. The Steelers have been a nightmare on defense for other teams. Predominantly overall, there's issues in the defensive backs, there's issues in the run game, but overall they've found a way to tighten the screws, tighten the pressure against teams, and they need to do that against their third-year quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, and a very, very talented offense across the receiving core and across the running back room. But with that, I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Steelers Touchdown Under, the rookie report that we do on this channel. Really exciting stuff from the rookies. I've got Pickens up there because I just thought Pickens had the best game. He's not a rookie, but I love him. I think he's great. That's why he's there. But as always, go Steelers. Can't wait to see them fight against the best of the AFC this week. Can they make the Jacksonville Jaguars 5-3? Can they go 5-2? Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, can't wait to